Sound check. Oh, goody, it's working. So exciting. Yay. I love it when that happens. Hello, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, please stay a while and check it out. I love to interact with my viewers. And my name is Jazz or Justice, and some people call me Lady Justice. Someday, hopefully soon, I'll just spill the beans on my real name because I feel like that's important. You know, everything about me is real, except I don't put my name out there just for obvious safety reasons, and particularly because my husband works in law enforcement. So that's kind of an added layer of, um, people in law enforcement are targeted. Did you guys know that? They have targets on their backs, especially from people like the Trumpster Fire and his folks that try to act like they're all pro law enforcement. And we know that that is a absolute like double think, double speak, as pretty much everything they say and do is. So I do have my little A to Z back here in the corner. I've expanded my view there a little bit. That's good metaphor, huh? Expanding the view. I'm constantly changing my scenery. We still have Brian Jones, the original Rolling Stone, in case you don't know who he is. The rest of the Stones are back there too. There they are. Mick and Keith, Charlie Watts, Bill Wyman. And we got Marlon Brando down there in the corner between the Golden Gate Bridge and the Statue of Liberty. You know, I'm just, my training is in art therapy, and this really is my art therapy. I'm always saying that. It was a surprising revelation for myself when I started doing this channel. I had no idea that that's what it would turn into. But, you know, it's all about self-expression and preserving our freedom of self-expression, which is really what our freaking country is all about, especially in the arts, but everything. Anyway, please hit your little like button if you'd be so kind. This is my old thumb that got broken so many times. It really just wanted to have a band-aid because I tried that a couple of years ago and then I glued it back together and it kept breaking. So yeah, it's sort of like the cartoon thumb that you keep whacking with the hammer or what have you. Make sure you're still subscribed. If you're subscribed, everything's backwards. Like when you're looking in the mirror and when you're live and when you're not live, it's all like flipped around and back again. And I'm dyslexic. Anyway, subscribe. Turn on your notification bell to ring. Share a video of mine with somebody that you think might like it. I've got my chakra tower so that we can all kind of like try to zen out and be in a good place while we're talking about some really rancid crap, you know. Politics, which in my opinion has become one in the same with true crime. Like for a while there I was saying, okay, I guess I'm a politics and true crime channel, and then I'm like, no, politics and true crime, that's kind of redundant. Anyway, I have a couple things I wanted to go over today. I'm just really feeling a lot of inspiration, or I like to say suffering inspiration, from this whole Charlie Kirk tragedy. Now, if you haven't heard yet, this is amazing. South Korea has been protesting in the streets all weekend, holding up signs that say, "We are all Charlie Kirk." And it's true. Even those of us, like myself, that probably didn't agree with him on much more than anything except his stance on the Epstein files that he had. And then he got a personal call from his dear friend, Don Sr., you know, his best friend Don Jr.'s daddy, his own daddy, Vladdy, who said, quit talking about that. And he said, yes, sir. And he went on his show the very next day and he said, you know what? I got a call to quit talking about these files. And I'm going to do that because, you know, I trust my government, blah, blah, blah. And then I believe, in my opinion, everything I say is simply my opinion, for the sake of hoping to start a conversation, open up a discussion, learn something, be educational. All my videos are made for YouTube. It's an infotainment platform. I believe that it was with the uploading to the cloud of the little birthday book that Congress had done on Monday night. They uploaded the entire 238 pages to the cloud. So if you want to look at it yourself, it's easy to access. I put a link to it again in the description of yesterday's video. And it says like iCloud and can't remember what else it says, but I even like double checked and made sure it was working while I was on my live yesterday, because one of my dear, most reliable viewers who's not here yet, Anna Bees, she might be watching on the replay. She was sick yesterday, so she has a pass. But no, everybody has a pass. You don't have to worry about that. I try not to worry about it. What was I saying? Now I have no idea what I was saying. Brain's going in 3 directions at once. It's all right. I just get so excited when I come on. So I've got the transcript of Amanda Knox's email that she wrote November of 2007. I believe it was November 6th. It was November 6th. It was the day she was arrested for the red rum of Meredith Kircher, which she was charged with twice. She had that overturned twice, and much of the world believes that she's still guilty. Unfortunately, most of the people in our country, in America, have been completely duped by the fake news and think that she had it pinned on her and that she's some kind of innocent, nice person, which she's a dangerous creep. She's right up there in her sophistication and manipulation and refusal to admit the truth with DJT, in my opinion. So anyway, I was going to go back and try to finish that thought that I lost track of a minute ago. What was it about Charlie Kirk and the South Koreans? And yeah, he represents all of us. So most importantly, before I forget or lose your attention on the thing, and again, I don't take that personally. There's a million things to watch on YouTube. Plus, we shouldn't all be on YouTube all the time, should we? There's other stuff in the world too. But we love our YouTube. We love true crime. And we just like to do the things that we want to do because we have freedom to make those choices for ourselves, hopefully, still. Oh, my goodness. It's insane. This is what I wanted to jump out here with, is that the governor of Utah is now saying that pretty much immediately when Charlie Kirk was assassinated, he got a call from DJT that was not so thinly veiled, but it was a threat that said, essentially, you could be next. And I don't know how he tried to couch it and phrase it to make it sound less threatening, but it was sort of like your typical, like, this is a really nice state you have here. It'd be a terrible shame if something happened to it. Stormy Daniels was approached when she was in her car and in the middle of her trial against DJT. She was approached by one of his flying monkeys that came up to her window, and she had her little daughter in the car and strapped into her car seat. I think she was like 3 at the time. He said, "That's a really lovely daughter you have there. It'd be a shame if something happened to her." This is how our freaking president rolls. He needs to be forced to resign a long time ago, but now would be a good time too. Like, the longer it takes, first of all, the worse he's making it for himself and everybody else. So that's a good thing, right? But what's not a good thing is the longer it takes, the more he's trying to get into place his flying monkeys and his Adolf H. army, his the Gestapo police. I'd like to say the Gazpacho police. That was a great mistake Marjorie Taylor Greene made a long time ago. The Gazpacho police. That's a cold tomato summer soup, gazpacho. But it's trying to make light of something that is very scary. Once I start trying to say them both, and I get confused. The Gestapo police are nothing to joke around about, but I do believe that that is what Project 2025 and the Heritage Foundation and these people like Kegsbreath that call themselves Christian nationalists. Their dear leader is Doug Wilson, I believe is his name. He is the leader of that Christian nationalist church. What is it, like Calvin or something like that? It's in Idaho. And then they have a big branch in Tennessee where Kegsbreath is from. Let me see what it says on the internet. Doug Wilson, Christian nationalist. So he wrote a book. He makes a bunch of videos. He literally sets everything on fire in the end of his videos. He had a whole lot to do with the Idaho 4 case, oddly enough. I mean, that seems kind of random, huh? But maybe not. So he calls himself a theologian, Christian nationalism. He's a public proponent of post-millennialism, covenant theology, and biblical patriarchy, which essentially they want to take women's suffrage away, the right to vote. Kegsbreath said that straight up recently. Doug Wilson says that straight up pretty much every day of his life. So this guy has a lot of influence in our country right now. So he's one of the terrible people that we do need to pay attention to. I'm going to read you the overview from AI real quick. Doug Wilson is a self-described Christian nationalist pastor, and I apologize for my braces that make it hard to talk. Nationalist pastor who has become a prominent figure on the new right, advocating for the transformation of American society into a Christian theocracy based on a conservative patriarchal interpretation of biblical law. He has gained a growing audience in recent years, particularly among allies of DJT and the MAGA movement. This is a person we need to keep an eye on and probably arrest for arson, if nothing else. Background and ideology. So I think he lives in Moscow, Idaho. Hey, but Moscow, Idaho, and the other Moscow, there's a lot of common ground, and a lot of people from the former USSR. A very high percentage of the property in Moscow, Idaho is owned by people from that country, believe it or not. It's crazy. It's huge. So maybe there's more of a reason why they named that city after that other city, right? Let's see. Wilson has embraced the Christian nationalist label and promotes a spiritual and political reformation of America into a Christian republic. Church and state, separate. That's what we're here for, right? He envisions a society where civil law is aligned with biblical commandments, eventually leading to an international confederation of Christian nations. Based in Moscow, Idaho, Wilson has established a network including Christ Church, a publishing house, a school, and New St. Andrew's College. His network of churches, the Communion of Reformed Evangelical Churches, CREC, C-R-E-C. It's weird. It's like croc because it is, in my opinion, has expanded to over 150 congregations globally. Wilson's ideas are gaining influence with a new church outpost in Washington, D.C. Notably, Pete Hegseth, who is expected to be Trump's Secretary of Defense, so this hasn't been updated because it's now the Secretary of War, right, is a member of a CREC church and has praised Wilson's work. Controversial views and actions. I'm not going to read any more of this crap. You can guess what it is. It's all that horrible stuff. I don't know if Charlie Kirk was following that template, but Charlie Kirk's an important figure, not just to the radical right movement, but as an American, he was exercising his freedom of speech. Granted, it was a lot of hate speech, and that's an abuse, in my opinion, but he had the freedom to abuse that until he didn't, until that was taken away from him when he got shot in the neck a few days ago. Was that just like the 10th? It was the day before September 11th, the big September 11th, right? So right now, over the weekend, we haven't had much news, have we? Because essentially, in my opinion, it seems like the people that orchestrated that assassination, and I think it was way more than the sniper and the two people doing their baseball signals, way more than that. I think it was heavily coordinated all the way to the top of government officials in our United States government system, and actually way beyond that, international for sure, for sure. So yeah, that could sound like a crazy conspiracy theory, and I believe that it is a crazy conspiracy, not a theory, but a real life, that there was a lot of conspiring to do that, to distract us all from those pesky emails and files and the birthday letter of this disgusting piece of crap who's believed to have unalived himself in his jail cell 6 years ago, and he just won't die. I think that was a quote from his old bestie a few weeks ago. Didn't Donnie say like he just won't die? Or was that just what he was thinking? It's like, man, you get somebody, you rub them out, you get them out of the way, and they just won't die. Well, I think the same thing's going to happen with Charlie Kirk. I don't think that he's going to die either. And I was so impressed with the South Koreans for taking that up with their protesting. Let me look at my notes. I do want to jump right into this 6-page email transcript of Amanda Knox's because it's so nuts. And I was happy that I still had it because I wasn't wanting to print it again. In a way, it's almost a waste of paper, but that's why I saved it when I had printed it out and read it before. That was over a year ago. It was April of 2024 when I printed this out to read in one of my videos. So I haven't read it in any of my videos since then, and it's astounding. You're gonna be riveted, I hope. I mean, I want my videos to be interesting because, you know, I love watching other people's videos. They do need to be interesting and, you know, not so much entertaining. I don't mind if they're boring as long as they're educational. That's what I'm looking for. But we're all looking for different things when we come to YouTube. And I hope that you can find some relaxation and hope and inspiration in this little presentation here. So Occupy Democrats is one of my favorite YouTube channels lately. And another one that is pretty new to me, but it's extremely popular and you've probably heard of it. You're probably already a fan of it. It's called, what's it called? I have a lot of trouble reading my own writing. Callie Matris. Let me look it up. I was just watching her most recent video from yesterday that I was going to link up in the description. Absolutely brilliant. And how do you say her name? Callie Matris. I think I did it. It's KALLMEKRIS. I wasn't sure. I thought that was KALI. So it's Call Me Chris. That's what it is. I remember now. It's Call Me Chris. KALLMEKRIS. She's wonderful. She has like 12 million subs. So there's the proof in the pudding right there. And she did the best video yesterday called They Are Pure Evil. And I am putting it into my description of this video that we are doing right this second. I'm putting it in the description right now as we speak. And sometimes it's a little tricky doing it, but I learned how to do it, I think. Yes, right there. Add description. Call Me Chris is added into the description already. So if you're interested, watch her video. It's so good. She goes into great detail of a lot of the things that I've been talking about in my most recent videos of the last couple of weeks. So for my thumbnail, I used a screenshot of a cross. Some people might recognize this cross. It's not just the symbol of religion. I'm a deeply spiritual person, and I don't promote one religion over another. I promote having faith and having a belief system and believing in a power higher than yourself. I definitely promote that. But anyway, this cross is a screenshot from police body cam footage when they first walked into the Watts house. You know, Chris Watts, Shanann Watts, CC Watts, Nico and Bella Watts. When the police first walked into the house, the curtains were drawn, and what you see there is a white lamp hanging over their dining room table and the bright Colorado sun shining through the dark curtains that are almost blackout curtains in their dining room. So that's just an apparition right there. That's pretty wild. And let me kick some credit to my dear friend Kelly from What's the Obsession, because she's the one who pointed that out in one of her videos. And I was actually in her live chat, or I might have been on her panel, and I was just like, wait, that happened on its own? Like, I thought that that was some touching up, some manipulation, you know. But yeah, that is what law enforcement walked into when they walked into the Watts home on day one. Literally, that cross figure. And they might not have even seen it because, you know, the body camera, like this camera, it shows things differently than in real life. So maybe they didn't see it until they went back and reviewed their body cam footage. But I'm sure at one point they saw it and were like, OMG. So you're probably familiar with that case. If you're not, I highly recommend Kelly's channel, What's the Obsession. There's many great true crime content creators who kind of got their start with that channel, and she's one of them, obviously from the title of her channel. But she does cover other cases, and she does a great job. Anyway, I started my channel with Kylie Rodney's case. And if you're not familiar with Kylie Rodney's case, I would highly recommend learning about it from my channel or other channels. But again, probably most people watching this video are familiar with Kylie Rodney. So in one of my very most recent videos, I think I did 2 yesterday. So the earlier one, I read this whole boring thing about Peter Mandelson, who is was a prime minister appointee in the UK who just was forced to resign a couple days ago because of his involvement with little e and his name being dropped in all these little e files. So a few days ago, I think it was Wednesday, and today is Sunday, September 14th of 2025. It's just about almost 6 o'clock in the evening. And I'm in Ohio, so I'm on the East Coast Standard Time. And I love Ohio. I love it. I'm not too far from Springfield where they don't eat the cats and the dogs, but we'll get into that later. Maybe not today. There's a lot to cover. So I want to stay focused as much as I can on the current crisis that I believe our country is in, and that it's really important for us to stay focused on spreading the word that this president has got to be forced to resign, because he's not going to do it. He's not just going to say, yeah, I give up. He's the never giving up kind of guy. I mean, if he was ever going to give up, he would have given up a long time ago. I don't know, maybe after he lost his first $900 million. That would have been one good reason to give up. But, it's also good to persevere. However, it is very important, in my opinion, to know when to call it quits. And sometimes it doesn't mean you're a failure. It just means you realize that you're better off packing it in and going a different direction. Like when people get divorced, I don't feel like that's a failure. I feel like staying in a failed, unhappy marriage is a failure. But I digress. It's just that sometimes people use that language, like a divorce is a failed marriage. It's like, sure, in a way you could argue that, but I don't know, if you had kids, then that's a success. Kids are wonderful. Kids are the most precious thing in the world as far as I'm concerned, and kids are looked at as a commodity by these people that do the human transporting, and they assault them and they abuse them, and it's more disgusting than any of us can possibly imagine. But that's what we're talking about here. That's what little e-files are about. That's what Jiz Maxwell is all about. That's what Benjamin Netanyahu is all about. He's named in those e-files too. So all of these like deals that El Presidente has been making with Daddy Vladdy and the other guy that I just mentioned, the president or prime minister of Israel, and the guys from Qatar that gave Donnie his jumbo jet toy, they are all implicated. Those aren't just gifts for funsies. Those are gifts to say, please keep protecting me. Like, yeah, this is a really nice country we have here. And yeah, it would be a shame if something happened to it. Here's a $500 million gift of a jet. Can we keep our country? Yeah, thank you very much. It is so freaking ridiculous how obvious this stuff is. It's so freaking ridiculous. So Charlie Kirk, after, maybe that was where I lost my train of thought, after he had decided that he would let it go and trust the government to take care of the e-files, then after that birthday book was uploaded on Monday night this past week, just 5 days ago, and by the next day, any normal president would have resigned. They would have already resigned before all this to avoid that, right? But this guy won't. And so here we are 5 days out. He's trying to buy time over the weekend. He's trying to spin this assassination of Charlie Kirk. And it's my opinion, and I know it sounds out there, but I also know that I'm not alone, and that there are many like-minded people who think this too, that Charlie Kirk's assassination was a distraction from the e-files, a distraction from the birthday book being released, a distraction from the 18,000 emails that were released that same night. Is that right? Wednesday? The 10th, that same night. And, when things like that are released, they know what's coming down the pike. That's not a surprise to them. They know it's coming. We, the public, might not know that it's coming unless we're on an inside track. But I'm just looking at the calendar real quick. Yeah, so September 10th was Wednesday. The same day that Charlie was assassinated was the same day that the 18,000 emails came out. Some of the really explosive information in those emails, and I'll just brush over it lightly and quickly, Some of it implicated the president with things like that he was on the power list and to redact his name, take his name off of the power list. I think there were 51 people on the power list. The power list related to the transporting of the children. The power list, like that's disgusting. Okay, so some of the emails were about that. There was one in particular that was about Jiz and little E making a baby with some fertility treatments. So the reasons why transporters want to make their own babies isn't because they want to be a nice big happy family. It's usually because they want a fresh thing to traffic. So it's very frightening. That was one of the things that made Virginia Roberts Giuffre run for her life from the situation, was that Jiz and little E were trying to coerce her into having little E's baby. And she didn't want that. She knew damn well what that baby's life would be like. So she did get away from them. She did have 3 children of her own, and she did lose her life 6 months ago, again, allegedly self-inflicted. And I think that a lot of people will say that they believe that because they don't want a target on their own back. Personally, I'm too small of a channel probably to have to worry about that. But, you know, it's always good to be careful anyway. Certainly, I don't need no trouble, but I don't think it does any good to avoid speaking the truth, because then you're just letting the bullies get away with their crap and you're not really any safer. Nobody's safer. We have to call these people out. We have to recognize them for what they are. And those emails are explosive. 18,000 of them. I believe there's 200 to 300 that might mention DJT. In that birthday book that was uploaded to the cloud on Monday night, this past Monday night on the 8th, again, the same day that Alex Acosta was interviewed. Alex Acosta, we know who he is. He was the guy who put together the completely illegal sweetheart deal, is what they call it. It was like the deal of the century, where little E got to serve 13 months in a county jail and be supervised by his own employees. And he only had to sleep at the jail like 6 nights a week. He was able to hang out at his office of his nonprofit organization. We know what he was doing there for 12 hours a day. And allegedly he was even able to leave the country a few times too, because, you know, he's a bazillionaire and he's got connections and he could just rig it. He could just slip away. So it really wasn't like he had any prison time at all. And Alex Acosta, that was 2008. And then in 2018, DJT appointed him to be part of the cabinet in his first administration. I think his title was the Secretary of Labor. And then Alex Acosta was absolutely forced to resign immediately when little E was arrested in 2019. And then it was a month after the arrest that little E was Epsteined. And when I say was Epsteined, you can use your imagination to figure out what that means. Have I covered enough of these notes to then I really want to jump into Amanda's email, because even though it might seem unrelated, like in some sense, all of the true crime cases, you can learn from one case to apply some of that information to another case. So, yeah, like I was saying, it's good to know when to throw in the towel. It's good to, this is a Rolling Stones song. It's called Before They Make Me Run. Let me walk before they make me run. You guys know that song? I think it's one of the few that Keith Richards sings. I'll try to put a link to it in the description. Before they make me run. I've been trying to think of that so that I could connect that idea to that other idea. But yeah, Donnie's goose is cooked. His ship has sailed. He is past the point of no return. If he was going to be like a typical spy from like Get Smart, it would be the time to eat the cyanide pill that he's got hiding in his molar, right? That little blue thing that he had in his mouth at the US Open last weekend. Maybe it was an Altoid, maybe it was a cyanide capsule and he was threatening. I don't know. I mean, personally, I think he was just doing that so that people would take pictures and talk about it. It was just another distraction tactic, just like running around on the roof of his freaking White House. But real quick, when he was asked, I think it was the day after Charlie Kirk was assassinated, and he was asked by a reporter in front of the White House how he was holding up, and he said, "Oh, me, I'm great." And look at that, we're building the ballroom. Isn't that nice? I got all these toys out here, these big fancy pieces of construction equipment. You know, he's just me. And let's change the subject. Couldn't be more obvious. Didn't want to talk about Charlie Kirk because honestly, he's having a hard time not telling on himself. But he told on himself with that response, in my opinion. He's getting sloppier and he's never been that smart. He's dumb like a fox, but he's getting dumber and dumber. So also we've got the crazy Big E, you know, the guy who owns X and Tesla and all that, who's just been bouncing off the walls, trying to call for civil war in not just our country, but Europe and other countries. I mean, that addict is high as a kite, in my opinion, and completely panicking. And he's trying to cover for Donnie, because if he doesn't cover for Donnie, you know, Donnie could probably evaporate every single penny of the $1 trillion that Elon thinks he's worth, which he's worthless, in my opinion. But you know, these guys, the other reason Big E is having a panic attack is because he's just as implicated in those damn e-files as his friend Little T, Little D, whatever you want to call him. I call Tesla owner the Big E. I call the Pedo Island owner the Little E. And I call the Taj Mahal owner, the owner of the universe, King T. I call him Little T because he wants so badly to be called the Big T. Big Daddy. That's probably what I should start calling him, Big Daddy. I call Vladdy Daddy Vladdy, you know, because you just got to be careful with your algorithm. All of the words that you speak in your videos and all of the words that are in your chat and your comment section and the title of your video, all of that goes into the algorithm and flags and, you know, can cause trouble, which is why almost every YouTube content creator that I know of speaks in codes with things like unalive rather than other words that mean deceased or red rum or what have you. So I had mentioned in one of my videos this last week about Sergey Brin, and Call Me Chris talks about this in the video that I linked up already in the description. Sergey Brin is one of the co-founders of Google. So he's got a lot of cash at his, I don't know, at his disposal. He's got a lot of cash at his fingertips. He was married to somebody with the last name Wojcicki. I have no idea how you're supposed to say that name. But I had come across some information not that long ago. Like I said, I think it was in a video that I did sometime in the last week, maybe a week ago. Elon had hooked up with Sergey's wife. And so, you know, all of these players all these billionaire players, they all have these sordid pasts. In addition to being probably on videotapes together doing things that nobody should be doing, they also have other cross contamination, or they've crossed paths, they've double crossed each other. There's a lot of revenge, retribution, and retaliation that they have towards each other that we're seeing acted out, and they're all trying to buy each other's silence. So that's so much of what we're seeing with this current administration, Trumpster Fire 2.0, right? And then back in 03, a bunch of these people were all gifted with fancy Rolex watches, which is funny because that thing I was talking about a second ago where Donnie was biting that little blue pill in his teeth at the US Open a week ago, last weekend, he was in the Rolex booth at the US Open. So he's got to deal with them too. All of these big money players, JP Morgan is as dirty as a pigsty. Chase, all of them. Bear Stearns, I mean, tip of the iceberg, right? Tip of the iceberg. And Prince Andrew. You really think that you can file a lawsuit against Prince Andrew saying that he assaulted you, and then he can silence you with tens of millions of dollars, and that you're not going to get rubbed out? And that you can also implicate Alan D., the attorney that helped hammer out that sweetheart deal with little E and Acosta, and that you can implicate him and you're not going to get rubbed out? And you can testify against Jizz Max and not get rubbed out? At least 2 of the 5 people that I know of that testified against Jizz Max have been Epsteined. So, and it's also, I think, imperative to bring up that Virginia Roberts Giuffre passed away in the duplicate manner to RFK Jr.'s second wife, Mary Richardson Kennedy, in 2012. Duplicate manner, like they keep repeating the same thing. In real life, there's a lot of possibilities, and no 2 situations are ever the same. So why was Charlie Kirk kind of done the exact same way RFK Jr.'s uncle was done, and his dad was done, and MLK Jr. was done? Not to mention so many others, right? This lone gunman crap. So they're trying to pretend that the guy who did that to Charlie Kirk is a Democrat or something, and that he's trans, and they're trying to use it to instigate a civil war, which is why they've had to keep it quiet over the weekend, because it's just not working. I don't think him confessing, or his roommate confessing, or his dad confessing, whoever it was that turned him in, I don't think that was part of their plan. I don't know. I don't know what their plan was. I don't know if they had a plan. I think they're in mass panic mode. Anna Bees, you're the first one to say hello. Hi, Jazz and everyone. Sorry I'm late. You are so sweet. I spoke about you at the beginning of the video. I was like, where's Anna Bees? She's not here. I hope she's feeling all right. Are you feeling any better? And you'll probably get a thing from me in the mail tomorrow. So that's something to look forward to. It's just a fun little thing, right? But I'd love to send you more of the stickers. Where I had one right here. This is a cute one. I was trying to remember where I even got these. They're like very kind of left-wing-ish, right? Kind of hippie-like with the sun and the moon. And I think I got like 50 or 100 of them. And then I remembered today, I think it was from the yoga studio that I've been training at for a couple of years. I think that's where I got them. I couldn't remember where they had come from. But I have a whole bunch of them. They're a lot of fun. They're really pretty, and I'm happy to share. And it took forever for me to find them after, um, moving my studio from one room to the room next door. A little better. Yay. Still not working tonight. Good. I love Sun and Moon. I know. Sun and Moon is awesome. And yeah, Sunshine Law is awesome too, which is what we have in this country, which is why we can expect transparency. Kash Patel in his little statements, I'm putting out this message in the interest of transparency, out of interest in transparency. It's like, yeah, you don't need to tell us that you're interested in transparency. You need to be transparent, and it's not an option. It's the law. Okay. Like, yeah, in investigations, law enforcement can keep their cards close to their chest, so to speak, while they're investigating a crime. But these people have been bungling this investigation with Charlie Kirk's assassination, again, by design. And they just keep giving themselves away with lowering the flag half-mast from Wednesday until today for a podcaster's getting shot by a crazy person. Yeah, right. And then JD Vance flying out there to fly with his remains back to his home state of Arizona with his wife and with Charlie's wife. Like, I don't think they're doing an autopsy on Charlie. I think that there's a lot of fishy crap, and all of what I just said is fishy crap. And then Trumpster Fire wanting to give him some type of medal of honor is fishy too. Trumpster Fire saying he's going to go to his funeral is fishy, because you know what? You're the president of a wonderful country that's in major crisis and turmoil, and you're in major crisis and turmoil. So you might have more important things to do than go to a podcaster's funeral, even if you did know him. You could send your kids in honor of you. They could be like your little ambassadors from the Trumpster Fire family to say, yeah, we care. Sorry we had to have you rubbed out, but we were kind of desperate, and you were trying to push for something that was not what we wanted you to do, and you said you'd stop, and then you kept going. And we've all heard what Donnie does to his friends when he tells them to stop and they don't. They're out of here. Forget about it, right? Okay. Yes. I'm going to read Amanda Knox's email that she sent 2 days after she rubbed out her rival, Meredith Kercher, 18 years ago. So the anniversary of this is coming up in, about 6 weeks, on November 1st of 2007. So yeah, we're about 6 weeks from November 1st, 6.5 weeks, and it'll be 18 years. And her poor family, both of Meredith's parents have passed away. She has a brother and a sister who would love to have some justice for their sister beyond Rudy Goudet's time served. They would love to have Amanda and Raphael serve at least as much time as Rudy Goudet. They each served 4 years only. And, if they were really wrongfully imprisoned, don't you think they would have sued Italy for some money for wrongfully imprisoning them? I think they would. But, they kind of know when to throw in the towel. They kind of know when to quit pushing, because that crap can blow up in your face. But the one thing that Amanda will not give Meredith's family is the piece of her not cashing in on Meredith's tragedy and homicide. It does suck. They give so much attention to a person who promoted violence. Oh, yeah. You mean giving Charlie Kirk attention, and yeah, he was really vile in his opinions. That's not being disrespectful of the deceased. That's speaking the truth. And maybe in the afterlife he can see that. Maybe in the afterlife he could see that he was used and that he was misguided. Yeah. And they don't give a damn about innocent kids being pew-pewed at school. Right, right. I mean, again, that day when there were 4 kids shot at Evergreen High School in Colorado within half an hour of Charlie Kirk getting shot. So I think that the 3 victims survived, and then the shooter did not survive. That's been largely not talked about and overlooked. And I personally think that shooting being at almost the exact same time was part of the distraction, that they were just desperate to get people to quit looking at the Epstein files, quit looking at the emails, quit looking at the birthday book. Like, what's going on over there in Utah and Colorado, people? But, the situation with Amanda Knox, she did bring herself back to the Italian courts a year ago. And, she won't stop cashing in on Meredith Kircher's Red stuff and her loss of life. So the, is it Netflix or was it Amazon Prime? I'm forgetting now, or Hulu. Whatever it was that Amanda just put her Twisted Tale of Amanda Knox up on, that she co-produced with Monica Lewinsky and Amanda Knox's husband, Christopher Robinson, I think is his name, but it's like he's named after the Winnie the Pooh kid. Anyway, so they made the 4-part miniseries called The Twisted Tale of Amanda Knox. And it's all about Amanda, and barely, in my opinion, barely mentions Meredith Kircher. But it's all done in this Amelie-esque thing because Amanda thinks she's Amelie. But check out this email that she sent to her school. Have you heard this email before, Annabise? The first time I probably heard it was either from Roberta Glass or Nick from True Crime Rocket Science. But I printed this. I downloaded it off the internet last year. I got it from the UK news website called The Telegraph. And this is an article by Malcolm Moore in Perugia. I think that's how you say the name of that Italian city where it happened. Well, and he published this on November 22nd of 2007. So Amanda sent the email November 6th, and then within 2 weeks and 2 days, Malcolm Moore was able to publish it. So yeah, you're not going to trick anybody in Europe, or especially in Italy, of the slightest bit of innocence of this crazy narcissist. No, you haven't heard it? Okay, here we go. She's so horrible. Yeah. And, and it's all about money. It's all about money with Charlie Kirk, with little E, with the files, with the bad reporting on Meredith Kircher. When I say bad reporting, I'm talking about CNN. They completely fabricated this case to be their cash cow. I mean, Amanda and Rudy and Raphael committed the crime against Meredith, in my opinion. Amanda was the mastermind, in my opinion. And CNN stepped in and paid $1 million for a PR firm for Amanda from Seattle, where she was from. And they also paid for all the legal fees and all the traveling expenses of the entire family, because they knew that this was going to be a big money-making case. And it was at the cost of I think Meredith was 21 when it happened. Amanda was 20, I believe. So here we go. I'm going to read. why is she doing all this now? Money. That's a really good question. Money. So what she is doing now is she just released the Twisted Tale of Amanda Knox on like Netflix or Hulu, whichever it is. So that just dropped this month and last. So I think the fourth of the 4-part series dropped at the very beginning of this month. I don't know if there's going to be like any other parts dropped or not. I think that's the whole thing. But, you know, she made $4 million off of the first book that she wrote on her roommate's tragic slaughter. And I'm sure that was just so awesome to have $4 million. So she just keeps cashing in on it as much as she can. Like, I mean, how old is Amanda now? She would be, when this happened 18 years ago, she'd be almost 40 now. She's probably 38-ish. And this has been her entire career. This is what she's been doing for the last 18 years of her life, is reliving the kill. That's what she's been doing, you know. I wonder what tokens she took, you know, what souvenirs she took. You know, she took some. She is so horrible. So yeah, that's why she's doing it now, is, you know, money, 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 right? Okay, here we go. This is the email. This is how it starts. Oh wait, no, sorry, this is not the email. This is transcript of Amanda Knox's handwritten statement to police on the evening of November 6th, the day she was arrested. This is very strange. Oh, see, I thought this was the email. Maybe I got it wrong. We'll see what this is. It's 6 pages long. And I thought the email was 6 pages. So I hadn't even read through it. Anyway, we're reading through it now. So she just thought, I'm a horrible person and horrible people are winning, so I'm going for it. Yeah, she's a huge Trumpster fire supporter too. Isn't that a coinky dink? Who would have guessed? Because we know that he loves to protect criminals. I mean, look at all of the people that he's pardoned, including Ashley Babbitt. Oh, but did you hear the good news, Annabise? Apparently, allegedly, one of the Proud Boys quit and put up a big post on X about it. A friend of mine sent me a copy of it. I'm going to read it to you real quick. This guy's name is Joe Biggs. He posted this morning, today. And at the time that this screenshot was taken, wow, it already had 100,000 views. Okay. Joe Biggs said, and his handle is Real Rambo Biggs. So he's like one of your number one Proud Boys. He says, I'm announcing my exit from the Proud Boys. After long consideration and the way we were treated tonight by our so-called family and brothers at our yearly event, I'm out. Not once were my fellow J6ers brought up or recognized. What, I guess they wanted prizes or something. I thought I was part of a family, and the minute I asked the club to recognize my friends, a fight ensued. This is not a club who respects its men who stand up for it. It instead mocks those of us who lost everything for something we believed was bigger than ourselves. So from here on out, I am no longer a Proud Boy. Joe Biggs. So yeah, they're mocking you because you were had. Sorry, not sorry. But yeah, that's smart to just back down now, because Trumpster Fire was talking about giving money to all the J6ers. What was that word? What they talked about doing with slaves, giving them like restitution. So Trumpster Fire gave Ashley Babbitt's family $5 million just a couple weeks ago, calling her a martyr. You know, he's calling his frenemy Charlie Kirk a martyr. Like, Charlie Kirk didn't die for your cause. You killed him for your cause. That's not being a martyr. That's being a sacrificial lamb. Anyway, let's get back to this note here. It says, this is very strange. This is her writing. This is very strange, I know, but really what happened is as confusing to me as it is to everyone else. I have been told there's hard evidence saying that I was at the place of the murder of my friend when it happened. This, I want to confirm, is something that to me, if asked a few days ago, would be impossible. I know that Raphael has placed evidence against me saying that I was not with him on the night of Meredith's Red Rum, but let me tell you this. In my mind, there are things I remember and things that are confused. My account of the story goes as follows, despite the evidence stacked against me. On Thursday, November 1st, I saw Meredith the last time at my house when she left around 3 or 4 in the afternoon. Interesting, she calls it my house instead of our house. Another tell, right? Reparations. Thank you, Annabise. Did I say something else like restorations? Thank you, dear. You know how me brain no worky when I'm live. If I don't have it written down, like I may or may not be able to pull it up in my brain or on my phone. Raphael was with me at the time. Raphael and I, stayed at my house for a little longer, and around 5 in the evening, we left to watch the movie Amelie at his house. After the movie, I received a message from Patrick, for whom I work at the pub Le Chic. He told me in this message that it wasn't necessary for me to come into work for the evening because there was no one there. Wait a second. Oh no, is it going to be one of these? Page 2 of... So that's page 1, and this is page 2. Okay. There was no one at my work. Okay, there it is. I just didn't see those 3 little words at the top in the corner. Now I remember to have also replied with the message, see you later, have a good evening. And this for me does not mean that I wanted to meet him immediately, in particular because I said good evening. What happened after, I know, does not match up with what Raphael was saying, but this is what I remember. I told Raphael that I didn't have to work and that I could remain at home for the evening. After that, I believe we relaxed in his room together. Perhaps I checked my email, perhaps I read or studied, or perhaps I made love to Raphael. In fact, I think I did make love with him. Psycho. It's okay, I have brain fog because you were fired, right? Exactly. Yeah, once you get canceled like 2 shifts in a row, you know you're canned. Because if it's just slow business, then they would have you come in and do some deep cleaning or something, right? There's always work that they can find. If they want you around and if they don't want you to go looking for another job. Because they know that if they keep canceling you, you're going to have to look for another job. So, in fact, I think I did make love with him. What a nut. However, I admit that this period of time is rather strange because I'm not quite sure. I smoked marijuana with him and I might have even fallen asleep. These things I am not sure about, and I know they are important to the case and to help myself, but in reality, I don't think I did much. One thing I do remember is that I took a shower with Raphael, and this might explain how we passed the time. Oh, that's funny. That's inconsistent with her other shower story that she came up with a couple of weeks down the road. So in this story, she took a shower with him, which they probably did take a shower together because they were probably both covered in the red stuff. This might explain how we passed the time. In truth, I do not remember exactly what day it was, but I do remember that we had a shower and we washed ourselves for a long time, right? Trying to get the DNA off, I'm sure. He cleaned my ears. He dried and combed my hair. Again, trying to make sure they got all the DNA off, right? He cleaned my ears. I know she had just done like 10 piercings. Like that's what she tried to say all the red stuff was from. But we all know that ears don't bleed like that, despite what Dear Donnie wants us to think. That the ears, statistically, the ears bleed the most. Statistically. That doesn't even make sense, but those are his words, not mine. I was just going to say that. Okay. Yeah. Where was I? Cleaning my ears. One of the things I am sure that definitely happened that night on which Meredith was red rummed was that Raphael and I ate fairly late. She's so super freaking obsessed with food. Again, she's an animal. You know, sex and food. That's like Freudian. Sex and food, sex and food, sex and food. Like that's all you got. Sex and food, sex and food, sex and food. She's so hyper fixated on food. It's gross. And I'm a foodie. I mean, food's wonderful. But man, it's so bizarre. Like, we don't want to hear about your snacks and shit. Your friend was killed. We want to hear about that, please. But no, she's just trying to distract. And she's just trying to make it more about her. What about me? I mean, my. Okay, I think around 11 in the evening, although I can't be sure because I didn't look at the clock. After dinner, I noticed there was the red stuff on Raphael's hand, but I was under the impression that it was red stuff from the fish. After we ate, Raphael washed the dishes, but the pipes under the sink broke and water flooded on the floor. But because he didn't have a mop, I said I could clean it up tomorrow because we, Meredith, Laura, Philoma, and I, have a mop at home. I remember it was quite late because we were both very tired, though I can't say the time. She can barely string a story together. She is just like little T, isn't she? Yeah, he just like throws all this spaghetti at the wall to see what will stick. But they just try to confuse you by talking about the ballroom or their meal or whatever. Right? The next thing I remember, I was waking up in the morning of Friday, November 2nd, around 10 a.m., which she woke up really early because she was a spaz. Like, I don't think she could sleep past 6, which it bugged everybody that knew her because she'd be freaking bouncing off the walls and waking everybody else up. It bugged her boyfriend. It bugged her roommates. I'm sure it bugged people in Seattle, but they won't say. Okay, around 10 a.m., and I took a plastic bag to take my dirty cloths to go back to my house. My dirty cloths. It was then that I arrived home alone, and I found the door to my house was wide open, and all this began. In regards to this confusion that I made last night, I want to make clear that I'm very doubtful of the variety of my statements because luckily these are numbered. They were made under the pressure of stress, shock, and extreme exhaustion. Not only was I told I would be arrested and put in jail for 30 years, but I was also hit in the head when I didn't remember a fact correctly. They did hit her in the head because she was so freaking annoying. And in Italy, you're allowed to do that when you're interrogating somebody and they're lying to you. So she just like so tries to cash in on that, like, oh my god, they hit me in the head. It's like, girl, you're hitting yourself in the head, so I don't want to hear you complain about them hitting you in the head. You're lucky they didn't hit you in the head more. I'm sure you annoyed them more than anyone had ever annoyed them in their lives, still to this day. That's why they finally just said, just get out of our jail, get out of our country, don't ever come back. And then of course she comes back last year to try to get her case expunged. That was the slander against Patrick. Yeah. Okay. Hit in the head when I didn't remember a fact correctly. You mean lie? You mean economical with the truth, as the Brits would say? I was hit in the head when I was economical with the truth. But she wrote, I'll try to stick to her words here, hit in the head when I didn't remember a fact correctly. I understand that the police are under a lot of stress, so I understand the treatment I received. However, it was under this pressure and after many hours of confusion that my mind came up with these answers. In my mind, I saw Patrick in flashes of blurred images. I saw him near the basketball court. I saw him at my front door. I saw myself cowering in the kitchen with my hands over my ears because in my head, I could hear Meredith screaming. But I've said this many times so as to make myself clear. These things seem unreal to me, like a dream, and I am unsure if these are real things that happened or just dreams in my head, just dreams my head has made to try to answer the questions in my head and the questions I'm being asked. So yeah, she did probably see Rudy Goudet at the basketball courts and asked if he wanted to get involved in their escapades. We'll just leave it at that. But then she wanted to implicate Patrick to take it away from all three of them and to get back at him for firing her. In my opinion. But the truth is, I'm unsure about the truth, and here's why. Because she doesn't know the difference between what's true and what's not true, because she's just like our president. Number one, the police have told me that they have hard evidence that places me at the house, my house, at the time of Meredith's murder. Again, the house, my house, not our house. Damn. I don't know what proof they're talking about, but if that is true, it means I am very confused and my dreams must be real. They had videotape surveillance of her walking to her house at a time when she said she was busy